It's time for the Blue Blows Podcast with your hosts, Alonso and Juan, Alicia Del Valle, and the babyface gimmick in the sky, Roger.
BetOnline continues to be your #1 source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. With up-to-the-minute odds, stats, and trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or your mobile devices. Head to BetOnline today to become part of the team, and remember to use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here.
And joining us on the Carne Asada, he is a very successful and very talented man, because not only is he a columnist, but he is now playing the role of the investigative journalist here. Gustavo Arellano from the Los Angeles Times joining us to give us the latest on this Shohei Ohtani news. Gustavo, ¿cómo estás, amigo?
No, bien, gracias. Thank you again. It's been too long, so I'm sad about the circumstances. Let's just leave it at that.
So let's get right into it, because there's the ESPN story and there's what you guys are reporting. And for a lot of people, what the LA Times put out, a lot of people saw that first, and then the ESPN stuff came out. So, Gustavo, how did you guys get alerted to this? And what was the first thing that caught your guys' attention saying this is a major news story?
Shohei Ohtani, anything, Shohei Ohtani, there's stories about him getting a puppy, about him getting married. Anything Shohei Ohtani is going to be a story, but a story of this magnitude, of course. And yeah, thank you for noting that the LA Times broke this story. We beat ESPN to it, although ESPN story, that was a whole other thing. But this is actually something that both the LA Times and the feds have been looking into for years, these illegal gambling rings that have been based here in Southern California. There has been convictions. There has been charges. Yasiel Puig is caught up in one of them right now. He has pleaded not guilty to illegally betting on sports. And so in the course of those multiple investigations, a name popped up, Matt Boyer of San Juan Capistrano. In October, the feds raided his house for, in part of this and their investigation into him allegedly running an allegedly illegal gambling ring. And he has not been charged with anything. His attorney, of course, had not made him available for comment. But in the course of that, sources told the Los Angeles Times that one of the names that had surfaced in the Boyer investigation was Shohei Ohtani. And of course, we know who Shohei is. So the very idea that Shohei Ohtani name can be in any way associated with the federal investigation, we immediately said we need to look into this thoroughly, quickly, and let's see what the story actually is.
Alonso or Alicia, go ahead. You're on mute. Alicia.
Go ahead, Alicia.
I just want to make sure we have the time frame right, because I'm one of the many that were shocked, right? I mean, Ohtani has this just untouchable, angelic presence, and Dodger fans, we've been spoiled for a long time, and this was just almost too good to be true, And I'm not gonna go after gambling itself, but at what point did you guys start the investigation on Ohtani's gambling or the alleged?
Exactly. I cannot give timelines. Those are trade secrets, but let's just say that you put it exactly correctly. Ohtani is beloved. Ohtani is incredible. We have not seen a player of his caliber since Babe Ruth. And this is why I try to tell the non-sports fans. It's like, okay, if you don't know who Shohei Ohtani is at this point, my gosh, what world are you living in? But I tell them, you know who Babe Ruth is, right? They're like, yeah, Babe Ruth. That's what Ohtani is. Literally, we have never seen a player like him. He has the biggest contract ever in Major League history, one of the biggest in professional sports, definitely in North American, the major four sports leagues. And so when we found this out, we started making phone calls. I mean, I can't tell you what we did. We, of course, talked to our sources, did our investigations. We called up the Dodgers, no comment. We called up Major League Baseball, no comment. We called up the U.S. Attorney's Office because remember, All we knew was that Ohtani's name had surfaced in an investigation into Matt Boyer. That can mean any number of things. So we called no comment. We called then finally Ohtani's people, or not finally, I could say we called Ohtani's people, and they said, okay, we'll get back to you. Then they said, we have not heard any of this. Let us do a little bit of homework on our part. Then a source tells us that they asked Ippei Mizuhara, his only interpreter that he has had in the major leagues. And all we were told was that Mizuhara was, quote, less than forthcoming in whatever they asked him, which you're like, okay, that's interesting. Then we get a statement from Ohtani's legal team. And I keep repeating this because it's an extraordinary statement, really. They said that their client, Ohtani, had been victim to, quote, massive theft. It's not LA Times words, it's their words, massive theft. That is, wow, that is a very, very serious allegation, and that they were going to ask the appropriate authorities, they didn't name who, but the appropriate authorities to investigate. Shortly after that, the Dodgers say, we are firing Ippei Mizuhara. And then literally, we do that. Very soon after that, we publish our story. About maybe an hour after us, ESPN publishes their story, and then the sports world and beyond, really Southern California, everyone's like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, on the front page of the LA Times again today, multiple pages covering Ohtani. It's been nonstop.
I mean, my cousins are threatening to beat me up now. They're calling me a rat because I'm part of this story. I'm like, guys, I'm doing my job. At least you're paying attention. Oh, the funniest thing is that, like, they don't even read my stories, but because I was interviewed about this on here, going to be interviewed, I got interviewed on Dan Patrick, Dan Le Batard, and all of this. And I'm not doing this to show off. I'm just saying I'm getting people who are friends of mine who never listen to anything I do, but because I'm talking about sports, like, whoa, and they call me Gus or Guti. Hey, Guti, ahí estás? What's up, man? Like, good job and all that. But it's been surreal.
I will say yesterday when I turned on the TV and I saw it on the Dan Patrick show, I was like, is that the homie Gustavo? I was like, what is happening right now? To break it down in layman's terms, because obviously I think it's fair to say that it's gotten a little convoluted, but we're also early on in the process, right? Worst case scenario, how would you look at this as far as how it would affect Ohtani? Worst case scenario, obviously they've moved on from Ippei. There's obviously an ongoing investigation there with illegal gambling, and that'll have to work itself out. But for the Ohtani side, as it relates to the Dodgers, worst case scenario, how would you say this is looking for Ohtani as of now?
I mean, I'm not going to speculate. I will say that there has been no charges filed at all against Mizuhara, against Ohtani, against Boyer. Ohtani has not been accused of doing anything illegal as well. So I'm going to say that right up from the start. I will say what we know immediately, which is Shohei Ohtani no longer has as a translator Ippei Mizuhara. The only translator he's ever had with the Angels, with the Dodgers, a guy who he described as having a brotherly relationship with him, a guy they would drive together to the ballpark, they would play catch, Mizuhara would pick up his groceries. Their wives were seen hanging out together in South Korea, during this Padres and Dodgers series. So they were close. At the very least, that professional relationship is done. It's done, and it's not, it's done for right now. That has to affect Ohtani. He is a Superman, but he is also human. So at the very least, that will affect him. And now he's going to have a new translator or interpreter. So he needs to now deal with that, because there was that bond that allowed Ohtani to be able to craft the persona that he wanted. So that much. Now, I could speak again about specifics, which is Major League Baseball does not allow anyone to bet on baseball, whether international or MLB. If it's MLB, game over. We know what happened to Pete Rose. If it's international, there's going to be suspensions. Mizuhara himself has said he knew that rule, so that he did not bet on anything. He said that he bet on football, American football, on soccer, on NCAA basketball. So no one is saying right now any allegations of betting on baseball. Now, Major League Baseball does allow they're not just the players, but also employees to bet on sports. But you cannot bet on sports illegally because, again, this is the issue in Southern California. There's these illegal gambling rings. And so you cannot bet on sports illegally. The penalty for that, though, this is interesting. It's at the discretion of the Major League Baseball commissioner. So Rob Manfred, if in fact one of the employees of Major League Baseball, and whether player or person, player or front office or whatever, is found guilty of that, then he's going to have to figure out what the penalty is. And of course, in the U.S. justice system, there's going to be penalties for that as well. So it's a bunch of different layers. But going back to, again, to your question on Ohtani, has it affected him so far that his very close friend allegedly betrayed him? Well, he got 2 hits and an RBI in the first game. I still don't know the box score for the second game. I know it was a slugfest and the Dodgers lost to the Padres. So those are the first 2 games of the season. They're coming back to Southern California. You have 160 more games to go. This is not going to go away anytime soon, though.
Gustavo, I wanna follow up with you because I think the big thing that threw everybody was the change in the story. The initial thing was that Ohtani knew, and now, like you said, Ohtani's lawyers are claiming massive theft. And I feel like there's some the Dodgers may have gotten involved when they got her wind of this and got Ohtani some different lawyers to come in here and try to, I don't want to say maybe muck things up, but how is it, as a reporter, when a story changes like this and more lawyers are getting involved? And for me, it always seems when lawyers get involved, that means somebody thinks they're in trouble and they're going to try to cover their ass. So as a reporter, how is it that you guys, because like for me, look, I did a wire transfer. A lot of people I have to go through many steps to get a wire transfer through. So the narrative that's out there, and I know this is speculation, but the narrative is out there, is how can you do a wire transfer and not know where that money is going? The fact that the U.S. attorney is involved in here, can you confirm, do we know, are these American banks, or are these international banks that these wire transfers are going through?
I cannot speak to that. Me personally, I do not know. A U.S. attorney's office is not speaking. Yes, wire transfers are very, very guarded. We do not know anything about Ohtani's financial relationships. We do not know that at all. It calls for pure speculation. What we do know is that Ohtani's lawyers have said that their victim, Ohtani, was the victim, or rather their client, Ohtani, was the victim of massive theft. ESPN has also reported that they have seen bank records that show that there were 2 $500,000 wire transfers with Shohei Ohtani's name on them and also the word loan. Now, the first story that Ippei Mizuhara told ESPN in their 90-minute interview that happened while it's all the way out there in Japan, so this is, it's interesting, was that Ohtani was very well aware of Mizuhara's gambling debts, that Shohei was there along with Mizuhara to do the transfer from a computer. When asked why didn't Shohei or Ohtani just front him the money, Mizuhara claimed that Ohtani didn't trust him with money. That was what the ESPN, that's what Mizuhara told the ESPN reporter initially. Then a spokesperson for Ohtani disavowed that entire interview. Then Mizuhara says, oh yeah, I take it back. Ohtani knew nothing about my gambling issues. I take the full responsibility. I will let listeners and readers try to make sense of that. I can tell you this though, when I, as a reporter, any reporter, when you interview someone and they tell you something and then they take it back, you're left wondering, what is the real story and why did they change? We would love to hear this from Mizuhara. He has not responded to our repeated requests for comment. Obviously, we would love to hear this from Ohtani. Ohtani has not said any official statement. It is the lawyers. The lawyer thing does not surprise me, just because when you are making money like Ohtani, when you have that fame like Ohtani, you it would be great to call Larry H. Parker. May he rest in peace, but they're probably going to be calling other folks.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what a lot of Dodgers fans, sports fans, just like you mentioned earlier, Gustavo, non-sports fans are intrigued by this because of the flip-flopping, because of the idea that somebody so untouchable, so beloved like Ohtani could possibly, maybe allegedly, be a gambling addict, because there are conspiracy theories out there that Ippei is the fall guy. And I'm not putting it out there. I'm just trying to make sure that our Bleed Lows podcast listeners and viewers understand that the worst case scenario could be what you mentioned earlier. There are multiple investigations, correct? And there is a precedent. You brought up Yasiel Puig. There are other players that have been suspended. But truly, with your expert opinion, Gustavo, what is the worst case scenario for Dodgers fans, for the Dodgers organization, regarding these multiple investigations into Shohei Ohtani's wire transfers?
Again, I'm not going to speculate on what Ohtani might face. We just know that his name surfaced in an investigation into Matt Boyer, who allegedly is running or ran an illegal gambling ring. No one has been charged with anything. The feds are not speaking at all. So we need to see facts before we can speculate at all. At all. I mean, I mentioned earlier, what are the penalties? And by the way, you can there is no sports gambling in California, period.
Right.
No one can bet on sports legally, or obviously not illegally, but you cannot even bet on sports legally in California. We know right now that Shohei Ohtani played his first 2 games as a Dodger. They're coming back on a flight right now as we're doing this podcast. The Dodgers are expecting 160 more games to go, and we just have to see how the season unfolds.
Guys, we just don't want our Dodger fans to start, doomsdaying, right? Like it's everybody just take a deep breath.
It's too late. Too late.
Yeah, I was like, Juan already went down the rabbit hole.
With X being the cesspool that it's too late. But that's why the facts are important, right, Alonso?
Yes, and Gustavo, we know you're in demand, so I wanted to ask you one other question. Is there any other update that you can share with us, as far as, obviously we've litigated kind of everything we kind of know, but is there anything else in addition that we can add to what we do know, or is it still just kind of, hey, wait and see until the Dodgers kind of get from point A to point B?
The last updates that I heard, this is actually on Channel 9 News, Michelle Gili, awesome reporter, she went to the house of Matt Boyer. The wife was there, and the wife closed the garage on Michelle Gili and would not answer any of her questions. Come on, it's Michelle Gili. She's a legend. You should be talking to her. But on our case, the only update I can tell you is that keep obviously reading the Los Angeles Times for the stories. Again, we are going to continue. And a shout out to my colleagues who are on this. I mean, on the initial story, it was Adam Elmarek, Nathan Fenno, Paul Pringle, Dylan Hernandez contributed, Jack Hernandez contributed, but now you're getting other names in there, Kevin Rector, Mike Giovanna, and more. I'm sure there's going to be more bylines to come. This is the story of Los Angeles right now. Everyone has questions. Everyone wants some clarity. And our job at the Los Angeles Times is to, again, separate the fact from the speculation. If you want your speculation, go on Instagram, go on TikTok, go on Twitter. There's a lot of speculation there. If you really want speculation, just hack into every Dodgers fan's Twitter, text thread with their fellow Dodgers fans. I'm sure you'll find some interesting theories there, but that's their theories that are not facts.
Right. I just want to apologize if I perpetuated any conspiracy theories, or
you did not say a single one, so you're good.
Except the one about. No, I'm kidding.
I know.
Gustavo, we want to thank you. We know you're
Thank
into
you.
man, and I have to say, man, I am super proud that the national media is finally catching wind and giving you your due here on this story, because I know it could be very easy to get ESPN people to come on here and have them talk about that story. And you mentioned the fact it's interesting that they had a 90-minute interview that they conducted with Ippei before all of this, but the fact that your job is very difficult, and I think it's made much harder when the subjects are not talking. We appreciate the work that you're putting out there.
No, thank you. Thank you for being back or bringing me back. Again, shout out to all my colleagues. It's just not me. I'm only first on the byline because Arellano, A is the first letter of the alphabet, but it's a group effort. And again, thank you. And if folks want to find out more, read LA Times.
And follow
Absolutely.
Gustavo. He's a good follow. It's what is it? Is it the Colonel Gustavo Arellano? Is that what it is?
I am a bona fide certified Kentucky Colonel. I wonder if I have my. Oh no, I have it somewhere, but I am a bona fide certified Kentucky Colonel. So yes, next time we're on, I demand to be identified as Colonel Gustavo Arellano, columnist for the Los Angeles Times.
That's
You
fair.
got it.
That's fair.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, real quick before we let you go, Coronel, when
Yeah.
is the tournament for the tortillas happening? Is it later this year?
Oh yeah, KCRW, my KCRW Tortilla tournament. That's going to be in the fall. We
Okay.
started usually in late August because we're in March Madness right now. That's Masa Madness. 64 tortillas with in play tournament in plays from San Diego and more places to come. That's all I can say right now.
Love it.
Besides, if you want your tortillas, if we're gonna talk, best corn tortillas that you could easily get, La Princesita in East Los Angeles. Best flour tortillas, you should go. Like if you live near Walmart in Southern California, you could get, or Stater Brothers, you could get Romero's. Romero's does really good flour tortillas from Santa Fe Springs, and of course the best of both worlds, Diana's Mexican food, aka Diana's Mexican food, with the little girl on the label.
Yeah.
Now she is one of the CEOs along with her brother and her identical sister. So I stand.
I love it.
Thank you very much, Coronel. Not only keeping us up to date on the news, but letting us know about tortillas. Once again, everybody, make sure you follow Gustavo Arellano. Thanks, Gustavo.
Cuídense.
Thank you,
Gracias.
Gustavo.
And a big thank you once again to the Coronel Gustavo Arellano for joining us and giving us the latest on the Shohei Ohtani news. So this is the first time that we as a group get to address this issue, guys. So let's I know you guys all have some hot takes on it, but I want to go to like the Princesa. Your initial reaction when you saw the news that it was Ippei, like did I mean, look, we should be professionals now, right? With Trevor Bauer, with Julio Urias, like we're experts at damage control, right?
Yes, and yes. And doesn't mean I didn't feel that lump in my throat, that dread of, oh no. And I happened to be sitting next to my father, and my dad right away went to Doomsday because he is a diehard generational Dodger and just the worst case scenario. Oh, the Dodgers and the money, and is it going to be, just went to almost the worst that could possibly happen, which thankfully Gustavo Arellano, being the professional that he is, made sure that he stuck to the facts, right? He stuck to the facts. He said there's going to be a lot more investigating. We all just need to calm down. And I'm saying we, myself included. But yeah, how it looks is very, very suspicious. And how it smells is very, very fishy. And I'm not the only one. I really want to believe what you said earlier, Juan, that it could be multiple things. It doesn't have to be Ippei being the fall guy. It doesn't have to be Ohtani being, a degenerate gambler. It could be layers of, and once the lawyers lawyered up, like it's going to take longer, right, guys?
Well, just to clarify what Alicia was talking about, because that was a conversation we were having off camera, this belief that Ippei is the fall guy, or this belief that Shohei is the one, that Shohei knew nothing about this. So what I was telling Alicia is, could there be truth to both of those stories?
Mhm.
Could it be that Ippei does have a terrible gambling problem that completely got out of hand? He went to Shohei. Shohei, being that Ippei, from what we believe, because we don't even know if this is true, but what's being told to us is that Ippei is basically Shohei's only friend. That Shohei is somehow just trapped in a house and he can only deal with Ippei. So is it believable that Ippei went to him and said, "Look, man, I fucked up. I'm in trouble." And then Shohei was like, "Oh man, I'll help you out here. I'll give you the money." And it turns out that maybe Ippei wasn't completely honest with him and told him what the money was about. And so maybe both sides of that can be true. But Alonso, I don't think you think that dog don't hunt, right?
No, a lot of this is not passing the smell test. And it's just I'm still waiting for more facts to come out. Like Gustavo definitely put some stuff in a box, if you will, because like you said, what Gustavo's role is at the Los Angeles Times, he's a columnist. So he hyper focuses on the facts. He does, the kind of like the old pros and cons checklist, right? But factually. And so I think once some of that comes out, it'll make more of the, another piece to the puzzle kind of fit. One thing that I did want to point out that you made a point of when talking to Gustavo is the lawyers for sure mucked it up, right? In the sense that they came out and said, hey, this was a massive theft. And then Trisha Thompson from ESPN reported on First Take with Stephen A. and Molly Quorum that when Ippei was kind of pressed on that he lied. And then the other thing I noticed is Passan yesterday when he was on Pat McAfee said that Shohei knew about this. And the reporting says that Shohei did not know about this when they were in the dugout. So that's another kind of like conflicting thing that I'm still trying to like, we're in the infancy of this, right? Well, at least publicly we're in the infancy, and there's still a lot kind of that has to come out. The point is, and the overall kind of, well, I should say the underlying issue, I would not want to be in that clubhouse when they come home because it's going to be a shit show. And it doesn't help that Yamamoto had the debut that he had in Korea, which I think we can all agree that there's still a curve. There's an adjustment period. He was incredibly nervous ahead of that start. We saw it in the presser. Like all those things are very valid, but all that goes to the wayside because now we have this massive story with the Babe Ruth of today with baseball. And holy shit, like I would not want to be in that clubhouse. I mean, it was reported yesterday that when they went into the clubhouse after that game, that someone literally stood in front of Shohei and did like one of these or something to that effect. Like, no, he's not available to talk. Don't talk to him. And so
Dodgers PR. It was Dodgers PR.
And it's only going to get worse because we talked about this before the season started. We all had an idea of how big of a deal Shohei Ohtani was. Now we're starting to see truly how big of a deal Shohei Ohtani is because now this is front page stuff everywhere, not just in LA, but ESPN National. The Dan Patrick show had Gustavo Arellano talking about it. And even Dan Patrick was kind of like, I don't know, man, something ain't adding up here. Like, what's going on here? And so obviously there's going to be scrutiny on all of that. And so, I mean, shit, Pat McAfee even talked about baseball, and he does not like talking about baseball. Right. So it's one of those where this is not going to go away. It's going to hang over the Dodgers for a long time. Hopefully not all 160 remaining games, but I would just not want to be in that clubhouse, period, end of story.
I want to reiterate that what we're talking about here is not necessarily, we're not trying to vilify Ohtani, right?
No.
We just, as a Dodger fan, and my phone has been nonstop about this, right? I mean, again, even Dodger haters are hitting me up. Like, I just really wish that, I want to make sure that we are respectful, and thank you once again for Gustavo coming on. But I want to make sure that people understand that Shohei Ohtani is not like the rest of us. He lives in a world that we do not live in. It is almost a bubble, correct? I mean, you mentioned it, Alonso. Ippei was or is allegedly Ohtani's only friend, right? Gustavo went into great length when he was with us earlier during the podcast about how important Ippei was and is to Ohtani. So I feel very bad. I just want to make sure that I think this sucks. It sucks for their families. It sucks for whatever happened behind the scenes. And I don't feel like I have a right to know. Of course, I'm curious. Of course, I want to make sure that, the Dodgers, 160 games left, are good. But it just hits so hard because we didn't see it coming, and this investigation has been going on, and kudos to the LA Times for breaking it. I just want to make sure that we understand that he is human, and this is not what we're doing here. We're not vilifying gambling or not gambling, because some people are like, why does he even gamble? He doesn't need the money. That's not what this is about. It's illegal in California. He could get in a lot of trouble just for wiring, just for even helping Ippei. He could get in trouble, right, guys? Just if that story is true, that version, he could still get in trouble, right?
100%.
Yeah, well, but that's the issue with this story, because I feel like this story is being conflated into so many different things, and a lot of it is because there's so much speculation, there's so much conjecture, and it's like we haven't learned any lessons, because I feel like this is the same way we were with Trevor Bauer. News broke. This is the same way we were with Julio Urias, where we were getting ahead of the story while the story was still developing. But for me, the bottom line, I think the simplest terms is this: if they can prove that Ippei did this and Ippei worked alone and that Shohei didn't know this, then this is not a non-issue. But if they can prove that Shohei made these payments, and this is something that Alonso's been talking about, this is a crime. So it doesn't matter what your opinion is in terms of gambling. And there's the whole bringing in Pete Rose into this, to me, baffles me, because this has nothing to do with Pete Rose. These are two completely different situations. What we're talking about here is that Shohei may have committed a crime. And if he has committed a crime, he needs to be held accountable for that crime. As much as we hate it because it's going to impact the team, that's what the bottom line is those are the questions. Whether they can prove that Shohei committed a crime, whether knowingly or unknowingly, if a crime was committed, he needs to be held accountable. If he truly is a victim, like his lawyers are claiming, then the only thing that is tarnished here is his image. He no longer will have the squeaky clean boy image. He will have to deal with the gambling memes for the rest of his life, the way Michael Jordan does, and all of that. Alonso, you brought something up that I thought was very interesting when you were saying you felt bad for the people in the Dodgers clubhouse. I'm curious to see what you guys think about this, because I do feel that the Dodgers were blindsided by this story. And I don't know if you can say you had to expect the Dodgers to know about this, because the Boyer arrest happened a few months ago. And so if Ippei, and again, and this could go back on Ippei too, like Ippei sees this guy get arrested, he's not going to sit there and go, hey, there might be a problem, because you see what happened was, but but I feel like once the Dodgers caught wind of this, I think the Dodgers were the ones that alerted Ohtani and had been like, hey, this is what's going on. And I think the Dodgers also got this new law firm involved and said, you know what? You need crisis management at this point, and you need people who are experienced with dealing with this, because this law firm that's representing Ohtani, they're the same ones that represented Johnny Depp. So I think now that the Dodgers are putting their arms around the situation, I think that's why it's getting a little more convoluted. But who I really feel bad for is Dave Roberts. I feel Dave Roberts every year since 2021 had to deal with Bauer. He had to deal with Julio, and now he's going to deal with this. And I am the Prince of Darkness for a reason, but correct me if I'm wrong, Alonso. I believe this is Dave Roberts' last year of his deal.
I'm not mistaken.
He is a lame duck manager. He already has the pressure of winning a World Series. And if he doesn't win the World Series, he's going to be scapegoated for that. But I just don't think it's fair that on top of that, you're going to ask him to deal with this, because Roberts is the one who gets asked the questions, because Ohtani still has not addressed the media.
Correction, through the 2025 season, so not lame duck. I stand corrected.
So he signed through next year. Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you.
Um, all valid. I mean, listen, I don't remember who it was that said it in the group text. Are the Dodgers cursed? Like I thought that was just funny because it's like, I mean, this is one of those things that I don't think anybody could have foreseen happening in any way. Even if you did all of the diligence in the world, let's just say hypothetically Shohei is a degenerate gambler. He does parlays like I do. Let's just say that that's the case. There's no way you would know unless I just told you that I do parlays, right? So
and just to add to that point that you just brought up right now. So Fletcher, damn, I forget his first name. We had him on the show. The guy from the Register.
Yeah,
from the
Jeff Fletcher.
Jeff Fletcher.
Yeah, thank you, babyface. Jeff Fletcher had asked the Angel players if they had ever seen or heard Ohtani talk about betting, and I believe. Let me look up exactly his tweet, because Jeff Fletcher just literally, as we are recording this, tweeted this information out, and that is. The exact quote is, he's talked to several of Ohtani's former teammates today. No one wanted to be quoted other than to say they were surprised. One consensus is that Ohtani never paid attention to other sports, so it's unlikely Ippei was betting on his behalf. Back to you, Alonso.
Well, and again, you could do all the diligence in the world, right? And there's no way you would have figured that out. So it's one of those where I do think the Dodgers were more or less blindsided, unless they were led to believe when that Boyer guy was arrested that Ohtani's name was implicated at that point. But from everything that Gustavo said and everything that's been reported, it doesn't seem to be that was indicated in any way. So I do think it's fair to say that the Dodgers were completely caught off guard. And listen, if there's one thing that I think everybody hates in general, it's they hate to be caught off guard by anything. It doesn't matter if it's, I lost my pen to I got caught up in a gambling ring. Like you just don't want to be blindsided in any way. There was already a lot of scrutiny around Shohei. We've seen, that already from the beginning. I can't imagine how this is in Japan right now. I can't even imagine. I mean, I would try to read this stuff, but I don't speak Japanese or read it. But it's, I can't. That's the one thing I was thinking about yesterday as I was telling my wife about this, because my wife literally says like, oh, the guy that's like Taylor Swift in Japan. It's like, yeah, that's, but just the face of Major League Baseball. And that's the other problem. This is the face of Major League Baseball. For the first time in a long time, Major League Baseball is back. Like I was jokingly telling you guys the other day, I was working out and doing the jiu-jitsu, and a guy that I was rolling with literally asked me about Shohei Ohtani as I was rolling. That's never happened before with any sport. Football, basketball, golf, any sport. And this dude asked me about the whole Shohei getting married thing and all that stuff. So that's there's obviously signs of baseball being back. And like this is just the worst timing of anything that could happen, right? And for it and Rob Manfred, if it turns out that there is something here to, like, no matter what, Rob Manfred cannot not investigate Shohei Ohtani. He has to. Like, it doesn't matter how much you hate the guy; they have to investigate it now thoroughly. And that's just sucks, because now it's just another kind of spotlight that's unnecessary to the game when you're trying to grow the damn thing.
Well, as of the moment, though, they said he is not under any investigation at this moment. That's what they released, I believe, yesterday as well.
Manfred is going to start receiving pressure, if he hasn't done so already, by all 29 other teams saying you have to look into this. And also, look, this is Manfred's legacy. He has cheating scandals, is his legacy. If he does nothing about Ohtani, because he could very simply just announce there's an MLB investigation. I mean, technically, isn't the Julio investigation still going on?
I think so. Yeah.
We don't have a definitive answer on that. So, I mean, he's gonna receive pressure, because if I was another team, and I'd be like, wait a minute, bro, there are reports of him, whether it's him involved or not, you have to make sure that he wasn't gambling on baseball, because this is now the integrity of the game. This is the whole reason why, and it's not like this has never happened before. Hey, guys, a team called the Black Sox? Yeah. Yes. Gambling has always been not just a part of baseball, but sports in general. it would be derelict of his duties if he didn't do this.
Well, and optic wise too, the perception is this dude has the biggest contract in North American sports history, and you're not going to not look into this. Like that would like, to your point, Juan, it's just a dereliction of duty. And it would just, again, it's a legacy thing now for Manfred too, right? You have multiple cheating scandals. I mean, that's just where it's at. You kind of fumbled the bag a little bit with COVID, and now this, right? And then we're still, you have Trevor Bauer, you have Julio Diaz. There's other things that are in there. You know, domestic violence has been a thing as well during his tenure. So, I mean, there is a lot of things that have just overcomplicated his legacy. And obviously, if you just don't do anything here, that just looks even worse.
One thing I keep coming back to is when the news broke, again, I was with my father. My mother chimes in with, "Oh, just let the man have his vices." Like, I'm just like, we need to remind people what Juan has mentioned repeatedly is it's illegal. This is not an opinion. This is not a commentary on gambling. If you think it's okay, if you shouldn't do it, does he need the money? He's so rich.
But you know what, Alicia? I think what it is what you were speaking to. I think people view gambling as a victimless crime.
They do. No, they 100% do.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like, I think it's what you were saying. It's like, because it's gambling, people go, "What's the big deal?" And I think you've been saying this all along.
Yeah, it's just the fact that we are in California. It is illegal. And I right away was like, oh man, like how did Ohtani get caught? I admit, I was like, oh no, Ohtani, because, and I'm backpedaling now, because I was thinking, do the Dodgers not know or understand that they have a huge target on their backs, especially Ohtani? It's just like you mentioned, 29 other teams would definitely want an investigation into this because of the success of the Dodgers, because of the deal that Ohtani got. There's so many reasons, okay? But now we know it wasn't Ohtani they were going after. It was this person in Orange County who is allegedly the leader of an illegal gambling ring. He had wires from allegedly Ohtani's accounts. So it's not even Ohtani slipping, right? It's the guy that is leading this illegal gambling ring. Am I correct? I just want to make sure people, because right away I was like, oh no, like what's wrong?
The IRS has confirmed that they are investigating Boyer and Ippei. That's why this is a federal investigation.
Yes.
And this is why, as Gustavo had said, the U.S. Attorney's Office is not, and they shouldn't be. It's an ongoing on investigation. The problem is we as fans, as you can all see from Twitter, we ain't gonna wait until all the facts come out. And this is why, Alicia, I want to hear from you on this. This is why I feel, regardless if nothing comes out, if it's all on Ippei, I still feel from this point on, Ohtani's image now is tarnished a little bit.
Oh, for sure. And I want to get back to what my mom said, like victimless crime. If this is what Ohtani's vice is, if it comes out that, the conspiracy theories are true, I mean, there are going to be a lot of people that don't sweat it. It's fine. What is going to happen is it's going to follow him. Every stadium, there's going to be, like you mentioned, the memes. There's going to be signs. They might make a nickname for him. And honestly, he's going to be 30, right, Shohei? So, and like Dylan Hernandez reported in the Times today, I mean, he called out Ohtani saying it's time to grow up. And this is a huge wake-up call. He's losing a friend. He's got more scrutiny than ever. And whether or not it comes to find out the investigations, because MLB, I really do, they think they need to investigate. There's multiple investigations. There's the federal, there's the MLB, there's the media, there's social media investigating. I just know that this is going to follow him, whether or not he's the victim of theft. You know how it goes. Fans are just going to love it. The haters are going to love it. Even our own fans will. I'm not going to be surprised to see new shirts on opening day about Ohtani. So that's just how it goes. It goes very fast. The cycle. There you go. Thank you. I haven't had my mushroom coffee.
Look, I would assume, and I get it, MLB. I think they're probably conflicted about this. They probably don't want an investigation because of all the name. But at the same time, wouldn't you want an investigation to be so you can prove to everybody, no, this guy was ripped off.
Yes.
He did nothing wrong.
Yes.
Like, if I truly got ripped off, I want my name cleared because of the fact that I know that in certain circles, I'm never going to be cleared of this. It's going to follow me forever. Like the whole Michael Jordan story. There's this myth that he was forced to go to the minor leagues because of his gambling problem when he retired. It was never proven. That story has never been proven that there's any truth to it. But
it's out there.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone reports it. Like, oh, dude, he went and played in the middle of his career. He went and played baseball because of his gambling problem.
Well, and the other thing, too, is you have a 10-year, $700 million contract with Shohei Ohtani. Like, the money is whatever, but you still have a very long-term agreement with the player that's going to have a cloud over him now. So you absolutely have to clear that guy's image and do all that, because then that also, from a business standpoint, could affect the economy, right? The economy that is Shohei Ohtani. So, I mean, from a bigger picture perspective, you absolutely have to look at it from it's either you're going to vindicate this guy or it's going to just be this big gray thing that is going to linger. At the end of the day, you want the vindication, right? Because then this all goes away and then we all go about our lives and Shohei keeps making his millions. But no matter how you look at it, it's just not good. I know we're in the infancy of this and there's going to be stuff that's going to keep coming out. As a human, I just feel so bad for him because the buffer that he had was Ippei, and now that buffer's gone. So now he had, and maybe he did need it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know Shohei personally or anything. Maybe he did need it. Maybe he didn't need it. Who knows? But I mean, that buffer, that barrier is now gone, and so that's the other reason why I would not want to be in that clubhouse. And what I assume is going to happen is the players are going to, kind of wrap around him and do the team thing and make sure that he's good. But there's still going to be that scrutiny there as long as that lays out, right? And at the end of the day, if Ippei was truly his only friend aside from his wife that he just recently married, then that's going to be tough too, for him as a person. He's going to have to grow. And so from a human to human element, I feel bad for him because let's just say it is innocent and he just didn't know, oh, there's all these kind of barriers that as to why I shouldn't do this. He could absolutely plead ignorance. I don't know. But if that is in fact the case, that's just going to be an even bigger and harder lesson to learn as he goes along in this journey, because he's not in the witness protection program anymore in Anaheim. Like now it's the spotlight is bigger, right? Because even down there, I mean, the entire time he was there was still scrutiny, there was still attention, but not to the magnitude that there is now with being with the Dodgers. I mean, that's just the reality, right?
Am I reading too much into this because I know pretty much I think the narrative out there is that, Ippei's taking the fall. But and I asked Gustavo this question because I am curious if they were American banks or if they were, international banks that these were going through, because and this is up for debate too, how much English does Shohei know, right? So, I'm speaking from experience here. When I was a kid, I had to translate for my parents. So any documents, and I'm like in elementary school, and I'm sitting here looking at bank documents, like I don't know what the fuck I'm reading here. I'm trying to do my best to translate it to my parents. So I'm telling my parents, "Oh, this is what it's asking. Just sign it, right?" So my parents, of course, are signing it. My parents are trusting me, a kid, I translated this to the best of my ability. So if anything has to do with financials, I'm curious if Shohei needed that translated to him. Is it really that far-fetched if Ippei didn't tell him the truth? If Ippei went to him and said, hey, these are for something else, and Shohei was like, all right, sure, because he trusts him. Like, is that really that far-fetched of a story if Ippei was his translator and Ippei really misled Shohei? Like, is it that hard to believe that maybe Shohei truly is a victim here?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I don't know where you fall in your lineage, Juan, but I'm the oldest, right? So I had a translator.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. Yeah.
with my broken ass English because I didn't speak English until I was like 12. So I had to translate. I'm apparently the CTO, the chief technology officer. So like I had to handle all that stuff, right? So that's not far fetched that could be a thing, because I mean the reporting is that he doesn't fully understand everything with English. He can, conversationally communicate with you, but apparently he can't really do anything more than that, right?
And you're going to ask that dude to read complicated financial documents?
Yeah. Well, and you alluded to it with Gustavo. If you've ever done a wire transfer, there's a lot of steps. It isn't just I'm going to send this wire and then see ya, you'll have the money in an hour. There's a lot of steps. You got to fill out forms. You got to do all sorts of things. If you don't use the right routing number, the money kicks back. I am guilty of that. So it's things like that. A guy that doesn't can't fully communicate outside of conversational English, I would expect him to not be able to comprehend that. I don't think that's a bad way of looking at it.
Thank you guys for bringing that up and stating it so perfectly, that we are in the infancy. We don't know. I love that scenario. It needs to be out there, Juan. So thank you guys for bringing that up. It is pretty early. We just have to sit down.
And you're only going to get that on this show with the Mexican. So if you want to go ahead and watch all the 500 other Dodger podcasts, I doubt if they have that same story, they're translating for their parents, then, hey, I tip my hat to them. Welcome to the club.
Right. That's just another layer of what could have happened here. Jiminy Cricket.
I just like that right away that when you were sitting next to your dad, you're just like, yeah, valió madre. Like,
no, but I love that we have Alicia's parents' perspective on this story, because it's so like from a different era. Like when her mom was just like, oh, let him have his vices. Yeah. That is totally. There was a time where wives would just look the other way and just be like, oh, let him do his. Oh, he's having 25 beers. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, I'm so clumsy. I hit a wall. He didn't hit me. It's like there was an era, right, where it was just viewed differently. So when Alicia's parents are chiming in, like with his dad is just like straight out of Goodfellas and be like, oh, he did it. He did it. Like I totally picture Alicia's dad going De Niro in the scene in Goodfellas when the Carbone comes in and his wife's got a fur, and like De Niro's like, "What the fuck's the matter with you? What's the matter? Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you to lay low? Didn't I tell you to lay low?" And it was like, "What the fuck the matter with you?"
Like yesterday, I went to pick up my youngest from my parents' house because they picked him up from school. And my dad he's a little younger than Alicia's dad. He's in his mid 60s, but my dad is, he's Mexican. Like he's from Mexico, a Mexican from Mexico that grew up around kind of the thing, right? And I was explaining it to him. My dad's like, yeah, he did it. Like without any sort of like, doesn't need to know the rest of the facts. Like, yeah, he did it. 100%.
And this is why I say his image is, if he's coming out and they, hey, dude, he is a victim here. It's proven. Nothing happens to him. He's nothing suspended. There's still going to be so many people that are going to be like, he got away with it. He got away with it.
Well, and to your point, something that you alluded to, you don't just lawyer up either, right? So that perception on its own for some people, that yeah, he's guilty, like he fucking.
But I really feel like that's the Dodgers protecting their investment. I think the Dodgers were like, when they heard Ippei's first comments, the Dodgers were like, "What the fuck? Why are you guys letting him?" Because allegedly this came from the spokesperson of Ohtani saying that Ippei told him about it and that Ohtani was paying this. I guarantee this is why I feel the Dodgers were blindsided. The Dodgers heard that and they went on speed dial and like, we need to get people to handle this situation that know what they're doing.
The spokesperson was also fired, correct? Did you guys
that? I don't know. That I don't know.
Okay, I might be starting a rumor. I thought I read that both.
Ask your parents, Alicia. See if
I know, right?
Remember how earlier you weren't trying to be a conspiracy theorist? Now you're trying.
I know. Gosh, dang it! I'm so sorry. I take it back. I don't know why I thought I read that, and I was only bringing that up to reiterate Juan's point. That is, it's out of the bag. And once the Dodgers got involved, it was a very different approach. It was a very different kind of response, and that makes me feel bad too. Going back to what you just mentioned. Ohtani lives in a different world, and his language barrier. If the spokesperson at Ippei are the ones telling him, "Look, we're going to take care of it," I'm not shocked that Ohtani's like, "Okay, right? Like, go ahead, good, do it, take care of it."
Well, I mean, there is some people in this world that do operate under the mindset of, well, that's why I pay these people to do this.
Of course,
Yes, yeah,
of course. But I really think Ohtani's on another level.
Yeah.
But that's why I thought Dylan's piece in the LA Times was strong in that sense, because what he was basically saying is, you can't do that anymore, bro.
No.
You are way too big. You are, like Alonso had said, you are an economy. You have to be more involved in this, and you cannot blindly just allow people. I mean, you hear this. This is not new. You've heard these stories of people ripping off rich people, and it's because it's rich people who got rich and just never had a background in finances. And like Alonso said, well, I'm going to hire someone who does. And it's like, no, dude, you still need to check your statements.
Yeah.
You need to check your statements and be like, hey, I didn't go to Wendy's. What the fuck is this? So.
No, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, especially, I mean, I know these next 3 games don't count, but that's not the story here. The story went from and even Yamamoto's like, whew, I don't have to talk to anybody about nothing. I don't. No, I'm kidding. But the story is going to be Shohei Ohtani all day, every day, and that's just like I said, that's going to be tough for the clubhouse. It's going to be tough for Dave Roberts, because Dave Roberts is going to get a lot of those questions. And listen, I think we can all agree that a lot of these players were kind of tired of getting asked about Shohei. Well, now that's going away. They're going to get asked about it now. And that's where I would just not be comfortable in that environment, because it's not my business.
Did you see Walker Buehler's quote? This wasn't after but this was before this story broke out. Walker Buehler was saying, yeah, you come up to me and you say, hey, can I get a couple questions with you? You ask me 2 questions about me, and then you ask me 6 about Shohei.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the players are getting tired of. It's like, okay, ask me questions about me. I mean, even before spring training started, like Chris Taylor had said, I think I've answered more questions about Shohei than I have about me my whole career.
I mean, Alicia has the same issue too. Instead of people asking her about her, what she's going through, they're asking her about Shohei Ohtani, what he's going through. So she can sympathize.
I know you're making fun, but for real, I answered a lot of messages. I'm also just homebound. So all I have is my phone and my laptop. And I'm just like, instead of reading and watching movies and writing, there I am, like diving deep into the conspiracy theories about this alleged gambling ring.
And that's why I send you memes, to bring you back into reality.
I know. You got to you got to laugh. You need the LOLs, the LOLs. You need the LOLs.
Yes, you do.
How you get through life, right?
Yes, Juanito, shut the studio down.
And that's right. So that's going to do it for this episode. Big thank you to El Coronel Gustavo Arellano. And I love that he just totally. Can you please address me by my formal title? I
honestly thought that was just like him joking. I didn't know that he was actually like a colonel.
We learned that today. So we want to thank him for coming on, and hopefully, because I don't think firing Ippei is making this story go away. This is a story that is going to continue. So we'll probably continue to update it on this program. But again, I want to thank everyone. Please make sure you guys are subscribed. If you're listening on the podcast, write us a review, rate us, help us spread the word on the show. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit that notification button, give us that thumbs up, leave us comments. We'd like to go ahead and engage with you guys. So this has been another episode. Babyface, doesn't this suck? I feel like we have one of these episodes every year lately, where it feels like an after-school special, where it's like, and now we have a very special episode of the Bleed Lows podcast.
Yeah, it just seems like one thing after another, right? Like you mentioned, every year there's something
We're all
new. This
human.
year
We're all human.
And that's a point I made previously too. It's like, we see these guys, we put them on a pedestal, and like, oh, these guys are anybody. Like, even like people are just talking about Ippei, like they're saying like, this guy had the best job in the world, right?
Yeah,
the best job in the world. They're saying he had the best job, but we don't know these guys. We don't know these people outside of what we see and what they present on social media. So
Keyword had the best job in the world.
I know.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for this episode. And before I make this comment, the irony is not lost on me. This episode of the Bleed Lows podcast has been brought to you by betonline.ag. The game starts here. Nos vemos, everyone.